Jeans, editor of Car and Driver magazine. The 10 cars you're about to see are not from the garages of budget-minded individuals. Each and every one of them is untainted by the stigma of low cost. You may never own one of these cars or even have the opportunity to drive one, but you as a car enthusiast can enjoy them, just as you can enjoy a great work of art without actually owning it. There have been many great exotic cars built over the years, and we've chosen 10 of them for this tape, knowing that opinions as to which exotic cars are the 10 top ones can be as diverse as opinions on broccoli or rutabaga. But we know that our 10 top exotics are representative of the world's finest and fastest automobiles. Making any list of the best means that not everyone will share your opinions. But we only have time for 10 exotic cars, and we apologize in advance if your favorite's been left out. But whether it's a rough and ready Shelby Cobra or a stunning Ferrari F40, we know that you'll wish one of these road warriors was sitting in your driveway right now. Let's go back to the early 60s, when a crafty Texan named Carroll Shelby dropped a big American V8 into a small British sports car, and the least expensive car on our list was born. That is, if you were old enough and smart enough to buy one when it was new. Today, you just might have to sell your house to do that.
Coca, who was sales manager of the Ford division then, just a guy in his 34, 35 years old. So I told him that if he'd loan me $25,000, I'd go out and build a car that'd blow the Corvettes off. Well, he thought I was crazy. He told him, give me $25,000 and get me out of there before I bit somebody. But he gave me the $25,000. I built 2 cars for it. I went to AC Cars because the AC Ace was a pretty good little chassis. I made a deal with them, got the engine, couple engines from Ford, put Weber carburetors on them over in Dean Moon's shop, and we were off and running, building the Cobra and racing it. As I say, they weren't technically advanced, but they got the job done. The car looked a lot like an AC Bristol or Ace, whatever you want to call it, but there wasn't one piece in it that was interchangeable with the old Ace or the AC Bristol. We had to increase the diameter of the chassis tubes, the wall thickness, the springs, everything was changed around to take the 280, to take the Ford drivetrain. And then with a 427, as I said, we did it on a computer. And it weighed about 400 or 500 pounds more than a 289, but you know, they talk about cars, these supercars do 200 miles an hour. Now, hell, we did that with old 427 running around Daytona in 1964, so.
Actually, David McDonald and Ken Miles and myself were the first ones that raced the Cobras. And we had all raced Corvettes before that. The Corvette handled better, but the brakes weren't that great and didn't accelerate as well.
It was a race car. It was designed as a car to keep the hell out of the Corvettes that would be street legal.
So the Cobra would out accelerate the Corvette and would out brake it, but it wouldn't out corner it. So in order to drive the Cobra fast, you had to drive it sideways, a 4-wheel drift all the time. So you come up the corner, brake, let the back end out, staying on the gas and then just steer with a throttle to the corner. Great fun. Really, really a lot of fun to drive.
Won so many races, won thousands and thousands. There's never been a car in that period of time that won as many races as it did.
I like the Cobra because it's better at everything than any other car you're going to come across. It's still gorgeous to look at. It's got a good recognizable body and sound. It's easy to work on. It's just a Ford.
We wanted something that a guy can own and take care of himself and work on Saturday and Sunday or during the week. And so all this technology, as far as I'm concerned, is taking a lot of fun out of people that love automobiles.
It's a lot of fun to race, a lot of fun to drive on the street. Some people like it because of its investment characteristics. Well, that doesn't interest me much, but I just like the car itself. Somebody once likened the 289 Cobra to being drug around in a buckboard, and that's pretty close to accurate. There's ways to soften them up, but it's a very abrupt ride, but the power that you have at your command makes it worthwhile. And you just, it's a good compromise. You got a lot of power, but it is a little rough. It's very hot in the summertime. You'll melt tennis shoes, you'll sweat a lot. Your girlfriend or your wife will hate it. But all those things go together to make it a real neat car.
If you drove it across the desert during the summertime, your tennis shoes were going to stick to the clutch pedal because we didn't want any extra weight in it. We didn't insulate the foot boxes particularly because most racing drivers wore asbestos racing shoes back then. So we built it primarily for racing, but it was street legal, so that helped us sell some of them.
The original 289 Cobra sold for $6,000, $59.95, and the 427 Cobra was right around $7,000. Today it's hard to tell. They're going down somewhat, but a 289 Cobra is still between $120,000 and $150,000, and the 427 Cobras are probably closer to $250,000.
We were having trouble selling the things anyway for $10,000 the SCs, and the ones we couldn't sell then are $1 million now. And to me, it's the biggest surprise in my life. I never thought they'd be worth anything.
Carroll Shelby's simple idea, a big engine and a small chassis, produced the only world championship ever earned by an American car, ensuring the Cobra's place in history.
Yeah. Look back on it, we were lucky to have built a car like we did at the time, and I get to drive them around the way I want to without any pressures now and without the business pressures, and I'm just basking in the glory with my new heart and having fun with my Cobras still.
The Cobra, of course, came into being to compete with the Chevrolet Corvette, but the Corvette's come a long way since then, culminating in the zoomy ZR1, one of the fastest, best handling, and affordable exotic cars now available for sale. The ZR1 is the fastest production Corvette ever built. It handles better, accelerates faster, and has a higher top speed than any other car produced in America. It is also a luxurious, comfortable, and well-mannered automobile. And it was introduced at a price of just over $60,000, making it one of the best values ever in the exotic car market.
When I see this car, I told my wife, I said, you know, I come to this country, I have to buy one. For many years, I have this dream. I want to buy the Corvette, and God, thank you, I have the good one.
On the surface, the ZR1 looks almost identical to a standard Corvette. The rear end is wider, and there is a small ZR1 logo on the right rear bumper. And when you open the hood, differences grow. The LT5 engine is a 5.7-liter powerhouse with 4 valves per cylinder connected to a 6-speed transmission.
The car has 375 horsepower.
This combination propels the ZR1 to speeds in excess of 175 miles an hour and from 0 to 60 in less than 5 seconds.
Oh, very, very fast, yes, yes. The interior is gorgeous, very, very pretty, very nice, very comfortable. And when you come in, you feel it's a sport car. You can feel it's a sport car.
The ZR1 is available only in a removable hardtop model. It comes with a variable suspension system that is adjustable from the cockpit for ride stiffness. The ZR1 also comes with a valet parking switch. A separate key in normal setting limits horsepower to about 210. When full is dialed in, the maximum potential of the LT5 engine is made available. The ZR1 rides on giant P315 Goodyear Eagles at the rear and P275 Eagles up front. The 17-inch alloy wheels are 9.5 inches wide in the front and 11 inches wide at the rear, contributing to the car's superb cornering ability.
I feel very satisfied and happy with my car. And my car is this one is my baby. It's my baby. I don't want to change for another car.
While the Cobras and Corvettes were going at it on the tracks and highways of the United States, a funny little German car was making a name for itself, both here and in Europe. Porsche hasn't left the stage since, and one of the latest Porsches is one of the best and most sought after, the 911 Turbo.
When you take a look at the price, you know, 911 Turbo is $100,000, and people look at it and they say, well, what am I spending all that money for? They really have to understand that this is a completely new car that has the classic 911 body on it.
The previous generation 911 Turbo was sold as a 1989 model. The 1991 model is an entirely new car with 33 more horsepower, big improvements in braking and aerodynamics, and upgraded handling.
The brakes are better, the rear suspension is better, the front suspension is better, it's got very good response even though it's turbocharged. So it's not one thing that makes a car better, it's a whole group of things. You know, people look at the price and they go, God, $100,000 for that car. But when you really look at it and examine what Porsche has done with this car, it's amazing. It's worth every penny that you pay for it.
The 911 Turbo's 6-cylinder 3.3-liter engine puts out 315 horsepower, enough to take it from 0 to 60 in 4.4 seconds, and then on to a top speed of 166 miles per hour, making it the quickest 911 ever. It weighs 3,274 pounds and gets between 13 and 21 miles per gallon.
The 911 design is so good that Porsche has felt that, you know, why do we want to screw with a design that is so classic and so perfect? And then when you, on the internal part of the car, when you're able to update it to all the latest technical advantages and put that into a classic design, you have, to me, the perfect race car. You can drive this car in rush hour traffic and not have it misbehave, and then you can get out on a racetrack and beat the hell out of it all day long, and you still have a car that you can drive home at night. And to me, that's truly amazing.
The new 911 Turbo, though it retains the classic 911 shape, is actually much improved aerodynamically. It has a lower coefficient of drag, and new front and rear spoilers with an aerodynamic under tray help reduce lift. Much of the car's suspension componentry has evolved directly from Porsche's years of racing experience.
All of their racing, all throughout the years, has been for one reason only, and that is to learn how to make street cars better. The brakes, the transmissions, the motors, everything on this car has a direct relationship to what they use on their sports cars. And so when you buy a Porsche in the showroom for passenger use, for street use, you are getting a car that has been so refined with all of the things that they've learned through racing, that you have a car that you can take from the street and put it on the racetrack and have a competitive car.
The 911 shape has been around for a long time now, but that doesn't mean that the 911 Turbo is not a thoroughly modern exotic car. Few cars can keep up with it, yet it is tractable and easy to drive at low speeds and in everyday use. Only about 600 Porsche 911 Turbos will be imported into the United States, so they're not only exotic, but already rare. BMW is not known as a maker of exotic cars, but BMW is known from its advertising as the ultimate driving machine. And the ultimate BMW, the M1, is unquestionably one of the world's great driving experiences. Wojciech Polak was a major player in Porsche's early U.S. racing efforts and helped establish both the Porsche and BMW names on the West Coast. He's also a collector of exotic cars, and one of his favorites is one of ours, the BMW M1.
Was in Europe was made for street, and Italian design was very attractive car. I'm sorry we don't have them with in the races. It was terrific car, and sorry they quit to make for customers.
That M1 was a pretty good forerunner for today's technology. We will have in that M1, we will have a lot of features you see in today's cars. Very, very fast handling. It will allow you very, very high cornering speed due to suspension. It will go more as 300 kilometers, but it's about 180 or so miles. The first development in that car started as late as in late 1975. There was a requirement that car had to go very, very fast, that car had to be safe. The first M1 engines, or for that matter, the last M1 engines also been very, very closely related to a race engine. As you know, we have inline 6-cylinder, we have a 3.5 liter placement, we have 4 valves per cylinder, we have in that M1 we have 2 overhead cams driven by 1 single chain. We had a 5-speed gearbox with integrated differential in there, very similar as used in all Formula 1 race cars. We had a very fine-tuned, similar to a race configuration, independent suspension, dual trailing arm in the front, dual trailing arm in the rear. The car body is, as you know, made out of fiberglass components. It's a little fun car to drive. It's a very light car, a very fast car.
The only drawback we can think of to the BMW M1 is that they're so rare that very few of us ever get to see one.
You can drive a lot different cars, modern cars, for the money you have to pay for a collector item, top shape BMW M1.
Italian cars are all but synonymous with exotic cars. The Lamborghini Countach is a benchmark exotic, a car that set the standard by which all later exotics have come to be judged. The Lamborghini Countach is one of the most visually stunning cars ever built. It is also one of the fastest.
the Lamborghinis are so rare, they just take you by complete surprise when you see. I mean, you see one of those things driving in the street, I mean, you just drop your teeth. They're so surprising, they really are. The most fun thing is actually driving it, and taking care of her actually is quite a lot of fun also. It's a nice thing to do, polish the car, keep her looking well, take your best friends for driving it. I think it's just a grown-up toy.
The Countach is powered by a 455 horsepower V12 and is the car we most often think of when we think of the 200 mile per hour plus exotic car category.
And the response that you have from the steering wheel to the driving is immediate. Corners beautifully, yes, a lot of power. You put your foot on the gas pedal and she moves. The top speed is supposed to be 200, but I know she'll do 170 quite comfortably. Oh, I know she can do it. I've had her up to 130.
A Countach can cost you as much as $200,000, but it's not necessarily a bad buy if you believe what the owners say.
I didn't buy the car for an investment at all. I just bought it because I thought it was such a beautiful car. But it has turned out to be quite a good investment, indeed. In fact, there was a time when it almost doubled in price. Now, that's not at the present, but it has gone up considerably.
Just how expensive is it to maintain a car like this? Maybe not as expensive as you'd think.
I haven't had much business in troubles tuning her up or anything at all. It's been remarkably good, I must say. It's a very strong little car.
The Lamborghini Countach is a timeless exotic car, and the mere sight of one is enough to make most people dream of owning one.
I think a Lamborghini is probably the ultimate exotic car. It makes people happy. The car makes people happy. It takes people out of their everyday lives and gives them something else to think about. Well, it is a she. It is. I always say cars are she's because men love them.
If one manufacturer could fill a list of 10 top exotic cars all by itself, that manufacturer would be Ferrari. One of the greatest is the latest version of the Ferrari Testarossa.
As soon as you put your foot through or on the gas pedal, there's just a big grin that happens on your face at the same time. I don't know how to explain it, but it's something that happens all the time, no matter how long you own the car. So I think it's a combination of things, and just the fact that it's exotic means that not everybody down the street has one. So it's a car that's a little bit rare, it gives you something to be proud of, and you're happy to have it. As soon as you fire the engine up, you sound like a Formula One car instantly. And the torque of the car is so awesome that I think that's why I really love the automobile, is because you just give it a little gas and you can feel the torque, and it's pulling you through every gear constantly, and you never feel like it's flattened out. It just wants to keep pulling you all the way through it. If you start finding yourself going into a very sharp corner, you could set the car up and it just makes itself right through the corner, flat out, and it just becomes, again, a fun car. I mean, you enjoy driving the car. You're not working very hard. It's an enjoyment, everything you do in the car.
The Ferrari Testarossa, to many of us in the car magazine business, is the most drivable and most comfortable of all of the Ferraris.
It's as reliable as my Mercedes or any other car around. And other than the normal maintenance you would do in the car, which I don't find any more money than most cars, I feel it's extremely reliable and not a very expensive car to maintain. Ferrari tried to make a car that you could drive on the street and be as happy with as you could put on the track. So they developed a car that has 380 horsepower. It's 5-liter, 12-cylinder engine. It has tremendous torque, tremendous power. Top speed approximately 175 to 185 miles an hour in the car. But you can get in bumper-to-bumper traffic and drive it through the streets of Los Angeles and never worry about it overheating or anything. So that way it's really a good automobile. The interior is extremely plush in the car. Beautiful leather seats, a lot of room, nice stereo. All the appointments are what you'd expect to find in a luxury car. if you want the very best, you really don't have much of a choice. A Ferrari's the car you're going to line up with.
We've said that the best exotic cars owe much of their success to the racetrack. The Japanese are often overlooked here, and that's a mistake. Honda was fielding cars in Formula One in the early 60s, and today Honda engines power some of the fastest racing cars ever built. The Acura NSX may be one of the most practical cars on our list, but believe me, its racing heritage is there. It is the world's first production car to be built almost entirely of aluminum, including the car's double wishbone suspension componentry, both front and rear. It features a high-performance traction control system that works over a wide range of speeds and cornering situations, and an anti-lock braking system. Its mid-engine cab-forward design is state-of-the-art. It has the ultra-high performance expected of an exotic car, coupled with the drivability and reliability that Acura has become known for in their brief histories.
Mine is just for pleasure driving. I honestly go to and from work. I live about 10 miles away, and it's a joy to drive in the morning coming in and going home. I also use it for limited distance, like to drive from Los Angeles to Las Vegas or similar type excursions. I'm quite impressed when it gets out on the open highway. The top end can be reached relatively easily, and to be honest with you, there's really nothing on the road that keeps up with it on a production basis. When you're out on the open highway, the acceleration throughout all 5 gears is excellent. For a 6-cylinder, it's got a lot of low-end torque also. I've driven other sports cars, and from what I can see, this is one of the better put-together cars I've ever driven.
The NSX can accelerate from 0 to 60 in 5.2 seconds and can run the quarter mile in 13.8 seconds. The power to do this comes from a sophisticated 3-liter engine with such features as titanium connecting rods, electronically controlled valve timing, a variable volume induction system, and a separate ignition coil from each spark plug, an engineering feature that comes straight from Formula One racing and which eliminates the need for a distributor. It all adds up to a lot of power in a beautiful, lightweight package.
Top speed somewhere in the neighborhood of 167 miles an hour. I've been close to that at this point, and I can say that as you speed up in this car, it gets smoother instead of rougher. I haven't experienced that with too many cars in my lifetime. I'm impressed with it from a drivability for streets, stop-and-go driving, as well as out on the freeways, out amongst the stretches and the straights and the curves. I'm thoroughly impressed with the car.
$11, $19, $49, $72, $79. If these numbers mean something other than a football game to you, you'll like our next car. These numbers were model numbers of some of history's greatest racing cars. The manufacturer was Lotus. Our pick here is the Lotus Esprit Turbo, and it's as close as you need to be to a Lotus Formula One car.
Being on the Lotus team, the Lotus factory team,
yes,
being a factory driver for the factory Lotus team, you know what a rush that is?
Oh, it's a kick. You know, it's my hero. It's strange that we're sitting in this Jimmy Clark commemorative because my hero in racing was Jimmy Clark.
Well, you know who my hero was? And he was also a Lotus driver? It was Graham Hill.
Absolutely. I mean, and to be associated with Lotus and to kind of be Lotus drivers, it just kind of makes you tingle inside to think about being part of that heritage.
For a change of pace, we thought that the best way to show you the Lotus Esprit Turbo would be to catch up with actor, racer Bobby Carradine and professional driver Doc Bundy at the racetrack and let you see firsthand how close this exotic car for the street is to a real racing car on the track.
My first racing car is a Lola Formula Ford, and the Lotus feels so much like a Formula Ford. It's uncanny. because it's mid-engine, the gearbox is hanging out over the rear axle. You have a long shift linkage, so you have to be precise with your shifts. It makes the same kind of demands on a driver that my Formula 4 did, and I like that. There's an inherent balance to a mid-engine car like the Lotus Esprit. So it's all of these factors make for a very happy race driver.
We don't have any bad days.
All these cars are derived absolutely from the car that's on the street. There's just a few safety, a few speed things that we do to the cars, several safety items that are added. So they actually are the same thing that you can go to the showroom and buy.
Don't let the fact that the Lotus Esprit Turbo has only 4 cylinders fool you. This double overhead cam turbocharged 4 pushes the Lotus Esprit Turbo from 0 to 60 in 4.8 seconds. And our testers achieved a top speed of 157 miles per hour.
My Esprit really gets up that hill.
Well, and that's probably one of the strongest things is yes, the acceleration is good, but really, as you well know, what separates us from cars like Porsche and Corvette is the cornering capability.
Well, that's the thing. Like I gather these guys up in the corners because they have to slow down.
Lotus has always been known for handling, and the Esprit Turbo is one of the best handling cars that money can buy. And its handling is at home both on the racetrack and the street.
Wherever Lotus goes, the people seem to generate to that car, and it certainly has that name recognition that just has a drawing at any racetrack.
The Ferrari F40 is unquestionably the ultimate Ferrari. Arguably, the ultimate exotic of them all. And it's the closest thing to a modern racing car that is street legal that money, lots of money, can buy.
The F40 is a car that was developed for the gentleman that's got a lot of different Ferraris, that is looking for the ultimate Ferrari, and there's only going to be a very few brought into the United States, approximately 200 of them, maybe not even that many. And the gentleman that can afford this kind of car has already bought all the hot numbers or all the faster Ferraris, and he wants the ultimate machine. You're dealing with a machine that is built basically for the street, but can also be taken right on the racetrack. You're dealing with a U.S. car that's approximately 2,900 pounds that has a horsepower rating that's been put on one of the local dynos at 522 horsepower. So if you can conceive of what kind of power you're dealing with there, it's not for your everyday driver, let's put it that way. It's for someone that really knows what they're doing with the automobile.
The Ferrari F40 is the fastest street-legal production car that has ever been built. It is also the most expensive.
There is virtually no comparison to the other cars. I've driven Boxers, and I've driven extensively the Testarossa. I probably have 30,000 miles on the Testarossa. The F40 is so much more powerful. The brakes are better, the cornering is better, the tires are better, the gearbox is better, the air conditioning is better. It's a fabulous automobile. The acceleration is like being in a GTP car. Recently, the car was run at the Ontario drag strip, and I drove the car myself under time conditions, and the 0 to 60 time was 3.8, the quarter-mile time was 11.8 at 126 miles an hour, and the 80 to 0 stopping distance was 206 feet, which is phenomenal. My wife drives it to the supermarket and back. She enjoys it. Probably the only difficult part is, of course, the nose is very close to the ground for aerodynamic ground effects. So it's difficult getting in and out of driveways, but all the exotic cars seem to share that problem. The car itself is completely fabricated out of Kevlar, a carbon fiber material. It's extremely durable, tough.
I think if the staff at Car and Driver were to vote on the most exciting car that we've ever driven, the Ferrari F40 would finish in the top one.
The value of the F40 has to be looked at from some very unique perspectives. First of all, there is no car in its class that comes close to the acceleration performance. And those performances being the 0 to 60, the quarter-mile time, the top end, the braking, and the lateral G-force. The lateral G-force on the car by One magazine was tested at 1.01 G, which is outside of the spectrum of any production automobile that's ever been tested. So the car stands in a class by itself. There is no other automobile that's capable of generating this type of speed, and it generates its own independent price, and you either balance the two together and say that you're willing to step up and pay it for that car, or you settle for a lesser performance car for half the price.
With our final car, we've come full circle because it's related to our first exotic. You could call it saving the best for last. When we speak of a racing heritage, it's one thing, but this car is a true racing machine, and a great one, the Ford GT40. And yes, there are versions of it that are street legal.
We built a few street versions. We sold them, just trying to recoup some of our seed money. I didn't keep any of them. Guess I should have, but you can't do everything in life. Yeah, we had street versions and race versions. We must have had 40 different versions of them. Every time Miles would turn around, he'd want a Roadster one day and coupe the next day, and we changed it every 2 weeks. These people that try to keep the archives and keep up with the history, they're so full of crap because they don't have any idea what we do from day to day at Shelby American. We were spending $35–40 million a year that the bean counters could keep up with, and we must have been spending $100 million a year that they couldn't keep up with because Henry Ford said he wanted to win Le Mans. And we had engineering that wanted to run a racing program. We had the racing department at Ford that wanted to run it.
Of all the racing cars built by all of the companies and all of the individuals in U.S. racing history, the one that caused the biggest worldwide sensation was unquestionably the Ford GT40.
I went over with Ray Geddes and Hal Sperlich, former president of Chrysler, when he was in product planning, working on the Mustang, and we put the whole GT4, hired John Wire and the whole team, and then we at Shelby American did all the early development work on it, and raced it in 64.5 exclusively, and then we built the winning cars in 66 and 67. Our cars finished 1, 2, 3 in all the years.
10 miles, and I did all the testing on the GT40 out of Riverside and up here at Willow Springs. And that car is a very nice car to drive. Handled well, more sophisticated, better suspension, better brakes, more aerodynamic, and really a neat car.
Most GT40s are in museums or locked away in garages, but there are some owners who feel that these great cars were made to be driven. If you're lucky, you may be able to catch a glimpse of a GT40 on the road.
I think it's kind of a neat car to drive. We take to the club events, and we call it our beater. We just drive it until, hopefully the wheels don't fall off, but we drive it real hard. It's kind of a neat, I guess, a piece in our collection. We'll have a few cars that we kind of put away here. And as far as investment, it's been a pretty good investment. And the market's kind of soft right now, but over the past, we've done pretty good on them. I really don't like it where it's more you know, you're showing off. But if you're just out there, you know, kind of in some shape or form communicating, just having a good time, that's kind of neat. You know, you get a guy that really knows what it is, and they give you the thumbs up, and you give it back to them. You have a good time.
They were great fun to race. Very, again, easy car to drive, and very, very nice. Good behavior, handled well, stopped well, good acceleration, fun.
When you see a Ford GT40 on the road, the first thought that comes to your mind is, how could a car this beautiful be more than a quarter of a century old?
It looks pretty modern, doesn't it?
Well, there you have 10 top exotic cars as chosen by the editors of Car and Driver magazine. I hope you enjoyed them. We enjoy them. We write about them every month in our magazine. I'm William Jeans, editor of Car and Driver magazine, and thanks for watching.
All this technology, as far as I'm concerned, is taking a lot of fun out of people that love automobiles.
In order to drive the Cobra fast, you had to drive it sideways, four-wheel drift all the time.
It's easy to work on. It's just a Ford.
Oh, very, very fast, yes.
When you take a look at the price, you know, 911 Turbo is $100,000, and people look at it and they say, well, what am I spending all that money for?
The car makes people happy. It takes people out of their everyday lives and gives them something else to think about.
As soon as you put your foot through or on the gas pedal, there's just a big grin that happens on your face at the same time.
To be honest with you, there's really nothing on the road that keeps up with it on a production basis.
You can drive a lot different cars, modern cars, with the money you have to pay for a collector item, top shape BMW M1.
I mean, and to be associated with Lotus and to kind of be Lotus drivers, it just kind of makes you tingle inside to think about being part of that heritage.
It's a fabulous automobile.
We just drive it until hopefully the wheels don't fall off, but we drive it real hard.
We changed it every 2 weeks. These people that try to keep the archives and keep up with the history, they're so full of crap because they don't have any idea what we do from day to day at Shelby American.